Hello everyone, and welcome to the complete set narration of the new set Bloomburrow. Before we get started, let's cover the set's new abilities. Some creatures have offspring, which means if you pay the offspring cost, you create a 1/1 token that's a copy of that creature. Valiant is just like Heroic, where a creature you control will give you unique bonuses if you target it with a spell or ability, but it only triggers the first time you target it each turn. When you forage, you either exile 3 cards from your graveyard or you sacrifice a food. Whenever a card asks if you've expended, it's checking if you spent that much mana to cast a single spell. Casting a 4 mana spell means you expended 4. Finally, some cards let you promise a gift. Doing so gives the opponent a benefit in order to give your spell an extra effect. You can let opponents draw a card, or you can give an opponent a tapped 1/1 fish. Let's move on to the cards. Banishing Light, 3 mana, 2 and 1 white. A common enchantment. When Banishing Light enters, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Banishing Light leaves the battlefield. Beza, the Bounding Spring, 4 mana, 2 and 2 white. A legendary creature, Elemental Elk, mythic rare. Beza is a 4/5. When Beza, the Bounding Spring, enters, create a treasure token if an opponent controls more lands than you. You gain 4 life if an opponent has more life than you. Create 2 1/1 blue fish creature tokens if an opponent controls more creatures than you. Draw a card if an opponent has more cards in hand than you. Brave Kin Duo, 1 mana, white. Common creature, Rabbit Mouse, 1/1. For 1 mana and tapping, target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Brightblade Stoat, 2 mana, 1 and 1 white. Uncommon creature, Weasel Soldier, 2/2. First strike, lifelink. Builder's Talent, 2 mana, 1 and 1 white. When Builder's Talent enters, create a 0/4 white wall creature token with Defender. To take it to level 2 for 1 white, whenever 1 or more non-creature, non-land permanents you control enter, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. To get to level 3, 5 mana, 4 and 1 white. When this class becomes level 3, return target non-creature, non-land permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Caretaker's Talent, a 3 mana, 2 and 1 white, class enchantment, rare. Whenever 1 or more tokens you control enter, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. For 1 white, take it to level 2. When this class becomes level 2, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. To take to level 3, 4 mana, 3 and 1 white. Creature tokens you control get +2/+2. Carrot Cake, 2 mana, 1 and 1 white, for a common artifact, food. When Carrot Cake enters, and when you sacrifice it, create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token and scry 1. For 2 mana and tapping it and sacrificing it, you gain 3 life. Crumb and Get It, 1 mana, 1 white, for a common instant. You can gift a food. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If the gift was promised, that creature also gains indestructible until end of turn. Dawn's Truce, 2 mana, 1 and a white, for an instant, rare. You can gift a card. You and permanents you control gain hexproof until end of turn. If the gift was promised, permanents you control also gain indestructible until end of turn. Dewdrop Cure, 3 mana, 2 and a white, for an uncommon sorcery. You can gift a card. Return up to 2 target creature cards, each with mana value 2 or less, from your graveyard to the battlefield. If the gift was promised, instead return up to 3 target creature cards, each with mana value 2 or less, from your graveyard to the battlefield. Driftgloom Coyote, 5 mana, 3 and 2 white, for an uncommon creature, Elemental Coyote, a 3/4. When Driftgloom Coyote enters, exile target creature and opponent controls until Driftgloom Coyote leaves the battlefield. If that creature had power 2 or less, put a +1/+1 counter on Driftgloom Coyote. Essence Channeler, 2 mana, 1 and a white, for a rare creature, Bat Cleric. It is a 2/1. As long as you've lost life this turn, Essence Channeler has flying and vigilance. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Essence Channeler. When Essence Channeler dies, put its counters on target creature you control. Feather of Flight, 2 mana, 1 and a white, for an uncommon aura. It has Flash. Enchant creature. When Feather of Flight enters, draw a card. Enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and has flying. Flowerfoot Swordmaster, 1 mana, a white, for an uncommon mouse soldier creature. It is a 1/2. It has Offspring for 2 mana. It has Valiant. Whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, mice you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Harvest Right Host, 3 mana, 2 and a white, for an uncommon creature, Rabbit Citizen. It is a 3/3. Whenever Harvest Right Host or another rabbit you control enters, target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Then draw a card if this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn. Hop to It, 3 mana, 2 and a white, for an uncommon sorcery. Create 3 1/1 white rabbit creature tokens. Intrepid Rabbit, 3 mana, 2 and a white, for a common creature rabbit soldier. It is a 3/2 with Offspring for 1 mana. When this creature enters, target creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Jackdaw Savior, 3 mana, 2 and a white, for a rare creature, Bird Cleric. It is a 3/1. It has flying. Whenever Jackdaw Savior or another creature you control with flying dies, return another target creature card with lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield. Jolly Gerbils, 2 mana, 1 and a white, for an uncommon creature, Hamster Citizen. It is a 2/3. Whenever you give a gift, draw a card. Life Creed Duo, 2 mana, 1 and a white, for a common creature, Bat Bird. It is a 1/2. It has flying. Whenever another creature you control enters, you gain 1 life. Mabel's Medal, 2 mana, 1 and a white, for an uncommon instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Up to 1 other target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Mouse Trapper, 3 mana, 2 and a white, for an uncommon creature, Mouse Soldier. It is a 3/2 with Flash. It has Valiant. Whenever Mouse Trapper becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, tap target creature an opponent controls. Nettle Guard, 2 mana, 1 and a white, for a 3/1 common creature, Mouse Soldier. It has Valiant. Whenever Nettle Guard becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, it gets +0/+2 until end of turn. For 1 mana and sacrificing Nettle Guard, you can destroy target artifact or enchantment. Parting Gust, 2 mana, 2 white. It is an uncommon instant. You can gift a tapped fish. Exile target non-token creature. If the gift wasn't promised, return that creature to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it at the beginning of the next end step. Pileated Provisioner, a 5 mana, 4 and 1 white, creature Bird Scout. It is a 3/4 with flying. When Pileated Provisioner enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control without flying. Rabbit Response, 4 mana, 2 and 2 white, for a common instant. Creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn. If you control a rabbit, scry 2. Repel Calamity, 2 mana, 1 and a white, for an uncommon instant. Destroy target creature with power or toughness 4 or greater. Salvation Swan, 4 mana, 3 and a white, for a rare creature, Bird Cleric. It is a 3/3 with Flash and flying. Whenever Salvation Swan or another bird you control enters, exile up to 1 target creature you control without flying. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter on it at the beginning of the next end step. Season of the Burrow, 5 mana, 3 and 2 white, for a mythic sorcery. Choose up to 5 paws worth of modes. You may choose the same mode more than once. For 1 paw, you create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token. For 2 paws, you exile target non-land permanent. Its controller draws a card. For 3 paws, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with an indestructible counter on it. Seasoned Warren Guard, 1 mana, white, for a 1/2 creature rabbit warrior, an uncommon. Whenever Seasoned Warren Guard attacks while you control a token, Seasoned Warren Guard gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Shrike Force, 3 mana, 2 and a white, for an uncommon creature, Bird Knight. It is a 1/3 with flying, double strike, and vigilance. Sonar Strike, 2 mana, 1 and a white, for a common instant. Sonar Strike deals 4 damage to target attacking, blocking, or tapped creature. You gain 3 life if you control a bat. Star Charter, 4 mana, 3 and a white, for an uncommon creature, Bat Cleric. It is a 3/1 with flying. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained or lost life this turn, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with power 3 or less from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Starfall Invocation, 5 mana, 3 and 2 white, for a rare sorcery. You can gift a card. Destroy all creatures. If the gift was promised, return a creature card put into your graveyard this way to the battlefield under your control. Thistledown Players, 3 mana, 2 and a white, for a common creature, Mouse Bard. Whenever a Thistledown player attacks, untap target non-land permanent. It is a 3/3. Valley Quest Caller, 2 mana, 1 and a white, for a rare creature, Rabbit Warrior. It is a 2/3. Whenever one or more other rabbits, bats, birds, and or mice you control enter, scry 1. Other rabbits, bats, birds, and mice you control get +1/+1. Warren Elder, 2 mana, 1 and a white, for a common creature, Rabbit Cleric. It is a 2/2. For 4 mana, 3 and 1 white, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Warren War Leader, 4 mana, 2 and 2 white, for a mythic rare creature, Rabbit Knight. It is a 4/4. It has Offspring for 2 mana. Whenever you attack, choose 1. Create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token that's tapped and attacking. Attacking creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Waxwane Witness, 4 mana, 3 and a white, for a common creature, Bat Cleric. It is a 2/4 with flying and vigilance. Whenever you gain or lose life during your turn, Waxwane Witness gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Whiskervale Forerunner. It is 4 mana, 3 and a white, for a rare creature, Mouse Bard. It is a 3/4 with Valiant. Whenever Whiskervale Forerunner becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with mana value 3 or less from among them. You may put it onto the battlefield if it's your turn. If you don't put it onto the battlefield, put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Azure Beastbinder, 2 mana, 1 and a blue, for a rare creature, Rat Rogue. It is a 1/3 with Vigilance. Azure Beastbinder can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or greater. Whenever Azure Beastbinder attacks, up to 1 target artifact, creature, or planeswalker an opponent controls loses all abilities until your next turn. If it's a creature, it also has base power and toughness 2/2 until your next turn. Bellowing Crier, 2 mana, 1 and a blue, for a common creature, Frog Advisor. It is a 2/1. When Bellowing Crier enters, draw a card, then discard a card. Calamitous Tide, 6 mana, 4 and 2 blue, for an uncommon sorcery. Return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hands. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Daring Wave Rider, 6 mana, 4 and 2 blue, for an uncommon creature, Otter Wizard. It is a 4/4. When Daring Wave Rider enters, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with mana value 4 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. Dazzling Denial, 2 mana, 1 and a blue, for a common instant. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2 mana. If you control a bird, counter that spell unless its controller pays 4 mana instead. Dire Downdraft, 4 mana, 3 and a blue, for a common instant. This spell costs 1 mana less to cast if it targets an attacking or tapped creature. Target creature's owner puts it on the top or bottom of their library. Dowerport Mage. 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a rare creature, Frog Wizard. It is a 1/3. Whenever one or more other creatures you control leave the battlefield without dying, draw a card. For 2 mana, 1 and a blue, and tapping it, return another target creature you control to its owner's hand. Eddy Merc Crab. 7 mana, 5 and 2 blue for an uncommon creature, Elemental Crab. It is a 5/5 with Flash. The spell costs 1 mana less to cast for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. Eddy Merc Crab enters tapped if it's not your turn. When Eddy Merc Crab enters, tap up to 2 target creatures. Eluge, the Shoreless Sea. 4 mana, 1 and 3 blue for a mythic rare legendary creature, Elemental Fish. Eluge's power and toughness are each equal to the number of islands you control. Whenever Eluge enters or attacks, put a flood counter on target land. It's an island in addition to its other types for as long as it has a flood counter on it. The first instant or sorcery spell you cast each turn costs a blue or a generic mana less to cast for each land you control with a flood counter on it. Finch Formation. 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a common creature, Bird Scout. It is a 2/2 with Offspring 3 and Flying. When this creature enters, target creature you control gains flying until end of turn. Gossip's Talent. 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a class enchantment, uncommon. Whenever a creature you control enters, Surveil 1. For 2 mana, 1 and a blue, you take it to level 2. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature with power 3 or less can't be blocked this turn. For 4 mana, 3 and a blue, you can take it to level 3. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may exile it, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Into the Flood Maw. 1 mana, a blue, for an uncommon instant. You can gift a tapped fish. Return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. If the gift was promised, instead return target non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. Kidnap. 4 mana, 2 and 2 blue for a rare aura. You can gift a card. Enchant creature. When Kidnap enters, tap enchanted creature. If the gift wasn't promised, put 3 stun counters on it. You control enchanted creature. Kitsa, Otterball Elite. 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a mythic rare legendary creature, Otter Wizard. It is a 1/3 with Vigilance and Prowess. Tap her to draw a card and then discard a card. Spend 2 mana and tap. Copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Activate only if Kitsa's power is 3 or greater. Night Fisher. 5 mana, 3 and 2 blue for an uncommon creature, Bird Knight. It is a 4/5 with Flying. Whenever another non-token bird you control enters, create a 1/1 blue fish creature token. Light Shell Duo. 4 mana, 3 and a blue for a common creature, Rat Otter. It is a 3/4 with Prowess. When Light Shell Duo enters, Surveil 2. Long River Lurker. 3 mana, 2 and a blue for an uncommon creature, Frog Scout. It is a 2/3 with Ward 1. Other frogs you control have Ward 1. When Long River Lurker enters, target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. Whenever that creature deals combat damage this turn, you may exile it. If you do, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Long River's Pole. 2 mana, 2 blue for an uncommon instant. You can gift a card. Counter target creature spell. If the gift was promised, instead counter target spell. Mind Spiral. 5 mana, 4 and a blue for a common sorcery. You can gift a tapped fish. Target player draws 3 cards. If the gift was promised, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. Mind Whisker. 3 mana, 2 and a blue for an uncommon creature, Rat Wizard. It is a 3/2. At the beginning of your upkeep, Surveil 1. It has Threshold. As long as 7 or more cards are in your graveyard, creatures your opponents control get -1/-0. Mockingbird. X and a blue for a rare creature, Bird Bard. It is a 1/1 with Flying. You may have Mockingbird enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield with mana value less than or equal to the amount of mana spent to cast Mockingbird, except it's a bird in addition to its other types, and it has Flying. Night Whirl Hermit. 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a common creature rat rogue. It is a 1/4 with vigilance. It has threshold. As long as 7 or more cards are in your graveyard, Night Whirl Hermit gets +1/+0 and can't be blocked. Otter Ball Antics. 2 mana, 1 and a blue for an uncommon sorcery. Create a 1/1 blue and red otter creature token with prowess. If this spell was cast from anywhere other than your hand, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. It has flashback for 4 mana, 3 and blue. Pearl of Wisdom. 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a common sorcery. This spell costs 1 mana less to cast if you control an otter. Draw 2 cards. Plume Creed Escort. 2 mana, 1 and a blue for an uncommon creature, Bird Scout. It is a 2/1 with flash and flying. When Plume Creed Escort enters, target creature you control gains hexproof until end of turn. Portent of Calamity. X and a blue for a rare sorcery. Reveal the top X cards of your library. For each card type, you may exile a card of that type from among them. Put the rest into your graveyard. You may cast a spell from among the exiled cards without paying its mana cost if you exiled 4 or more cards this way. Then put the rest of the exiled cards into your hand. Run Away Together. 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a common instant. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by different players. Return those creatures to their owner's hands. Season of Weaving. 6 mana, 4 and 2 blue for a mythic sorcery. Choose up to 5 paws worth of modes. You may choose the same mode more than once. For 1 paw, draw a card. 2 paws, choose an artifact or creature you control. Create a token that's a copy of it. 3 paws, return each non-land, non-token permanent to its owner's hand. Shore Up. 1 mana, a blue, for a common instant. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains hexproof until end of turn. Untap it. Shoreline Looter. 2 mana, 1 and a blue for an uncommon creature, rat rogue. It is a 1/1 that can't be blocked. It has threshold. Whenever Shoreline Looter deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, then discard a card unless 7 or more cards are in your graveyard. Sky Skipper Duo. 5 mana, 4 and a blue for a common creature, Bird Frog. It is a 3/3 with flying. When Sky Skipper Duo enters, exile up to 1 other target creature you control. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Spellgyre. 4 mana, 2 and a blue for an uncommon instant. Choose 1. Counter target spell. Surveil 2, then draw 2 cards. Splash Slasher. 4 mana, 3 and a blue for an uncommon creature, Frog Wizard. It is a 3/3 with Offspring for 2 mana, 1 and a blue. When this creature enters, tap up to 1 target creature and put a stun counter on it. Splash Portal. 1 blue mana for an uncommon sorcery. Exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. If that creature is a bird, frog, otter, or rat, draw a card. Storm Chaser's Talent. 1 mana, a blue, for a rare class enchantment. When Storm Chaser's Talent enters, create a 1/1 blue and red otter creature token with prowess. To get to level 2, you need to spend 4 mana, 3 and a blue. When this class becomes level 2, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. To get to level 3, you need to spend 6 mana, 5 and a blue. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue and red otter creature token with prowess. Sugarcoat. 3 mana, 2 and a blue for an uncommon aura. It has flash. Enchant creature or food. Enchanted Permanent is a colorless food artifact with 2 mana, tap, sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life, and loses all other card types and abilities. Thoughtshucker. 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a common creature, Rat Rogue. It is a 1/3 with threshold. For 2 mana, 1 and a blue, you can put a +1/+1 counter on Thoughtshucker and draw a card. Activate only if 7 or more cards are in your graveyard, and only once. Thundertrap Trainer. 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a rare creature, Otter Wizard. It is a 1/2 with Offspring for 4 mana. When this creature enters, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Valley Floodcaller. 3 mana, 2 and a blue, for a rare creature, otter wizard. It is a 2/2 with flash. You may cast non-creature spells as though they had flash. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, birds, frogs, otters, and rats you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Untap them. Waterspout Warden. 3 mana, 2 and a blue, for a common creature frog soldier. It is a 3/2. Whenever Waterspout Warden attacks, if another creature entered the battlefield under your control this turn, Waterspout Warden gains flying until end of turn. Wishing Well. 4 mana, 3 and a blue, for a rare artifact. Tap it, put a coin counter on Wishing Well. When you do, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with mana value equal to the number of coin counters on Wishing Well from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. Activate only as a sorcery. Agate Blade Assassin. 2 mana, 1 and a black, for a common creature, Lizard Assassin. It is a 1/3. Whenever Agate Blade Assassin attacks, defending player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Bandit's Talent. 2 mana, 1 and a black, for an uncommon class enchantment. When Bandit's Talent enters, each opponent discards 2 cards unless they discard a non-land card. To get to level 2, you need to spend 1 black. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if that player has 1 or fewer cards in hand, they lose 2 life. To get to level 3, you need to spend 4 mana, 3 and a black. At the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card for each opponent who has 1 or fewer cards in hand. Bonebind Orator. 2 mana, 1 and a black, for a common creature, Squirrel Warlock Bard. It is a 2/2, and for 4 mana, 3 and a black, and exiling Bonebind Orator from your graveyard, you can return another target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Bone Cache Overseer. 1 mana, 1 black, for an uncommon creature, Squirrel Warlock. It is a 1/1. Tap, pay 1 life, draw a card. Activate only if 3 or more cards left your graveyard this turn, or if you've sacrificed a food this turn. Coiling Rebirth. 5 mana, 3 and 2 black, for a rare sorcery. You can gift a card. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then, if the gift was promised, and that creature isn't legendary, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 1/1. Consumed by Greed. 3 mana, 1 and 2 black, for an uncommon instant. You can gift a card. Target opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control. If the gift was promised, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Cruel Claws Heist. 2 mana, 2 black, for a rare sorcery. You can gift a card. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. Exile that card. If the gift was promised, you may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled, and mana of any type can be spent to cast it. Daggerfang Duo. 3 mana, 2 and a black, for a common creature, Rat Squirrel. It is a 3/2 with Death Touch. When Daggerfang Duo enters, you may mill 2 cards. Darkstar Augur. 3 mana, 2 and a black, for a rare creature, Bat Warlock. It is a 2/3 with Offspring for 1 black. It has flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its mana value. Dire Sight. 3 mana, 2 and a black, for a common sorcery. Surveil 2, then draw 2 cards. You lose 2 life. Downwind Ambusher. 4 mana, 3 and a black, for an uncommon creature, Skunk Assassin. It is a 4/2 with flash. When Downwind Ambusher enters, choose 1. Target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Destroy target creature an opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn. Early Winter. 5 mana, 4 and a black, for a common instant. Choose 1. Exile target creature. Target opponent exiles an enchantment they control. Feed the Cycle. 2 mana, 1 and a black, for an uncommon instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, forage or pay 1 black mana. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Fell. 2 mana, 1 and a black for an uncommon sorcery. Destroy target creature. Glide Dive Duo. 5 mana, 4 and a black for a common creature, Bat Lizard. It is a 3/3 with flying. When Glide Dive Duo enters, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Hazel's Nocturne. 4 mana, 3 and a black for an uncommon instant. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. Each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Huskburster Swarm. 8 mana, 7 and a black for an uncommon creature, Elemental Insect. It is a 6/6. This spell costs 1 mana less to cast for each creature card you own in exile and in your graveyard. It has Menace and Death Touch. Iridescent Vinelasher. 1 mana, black for a 1/2. It has Offspring for 2 mana, and it has Landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, this creature deals 1 damage to target opponent. Maha, Its Feathers Knight. 5 mana, 3 and 2 black for a mythic rare legendary creature, Elemental Bird. It is a 6/5 with flying, trample, and ward. Discard a card. Creatures your opponents control have base toughness 1. Moonstone Harbinger. 3 mana, 2 and a black for an uncommon creature, Bat Warrior. It is a 1/3 with flying and death touch. Whenever you gain or lose life during your turn, bats you control get +1/+0 and gain death touch until end of turn. This ability triggers only once each turn. Nocturnal Hunger. 3 mana, 2 and a black for a common instant. You can gift a food. Destroy target creature. If the gift wasn't promised, you lose 2 life. Osteomancer Adept. 2 mana, 1 and a black for a rare creature, Squirrel Warlock. It is a 2/2 with Death Touch. Tap it. Until end of turn, you may cast creature spells from your graveyard by foraging in addition to paying their other costs. If you cast a spell this way, that creature enters with a finality counter on it. Persistent Marshstalker. 2 mana, 1 and a black for an uncommon creature, Rat Berserker. It is a 3/1. Persistent Marshstalker gets +1/+0 for each other rat you control. It has Threshold. Whenever you attack with 1 or more rats, if 7 or more cards are in your graveyard, you may pay 3 mana, 2 and a black. If you do, return Persistent Marshstalker from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking. Psychic Whirl. 3 mana, 2 and a black for a common sorcery. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Then, if you control a rat, Surveil 2. Ravine Raider. 1 mana, black for a common creature, Lizard Rogue. It is a 1/1 with Menace. For 2 mana, 1 and a black, Ravine Raider gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Rottenmouth Viper. 6 mana, 5 and a black for a mythic rare creature, Elemental Snake. It is a 6/6. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice any number of non-land permanents. This spell costs 1 mana less to cast for each permanent sacrificed this way. Whenever Rottenmouth Viper enters or attacks, put a blight counter on it. Then, for each blight counter on it, each opponent loses 4 life unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. Ruthless Negotiation. 1 mana, black, for an uncommon sorcery. Target opponent exiles a card from their hand. If this spell was cast from a graveyard, draw a card. It has Flashback for 5 mana, 4 and a black. Savor. 2 mana, 1 and a black for a common instant. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. Create a food token. Scales of Shale. 3 mana, 2 and a black for a common instant. This spell costs 1 mana less to cast for each lizard you control. Target creature gets +2/+0 and gains lifelink and indestructible until end of turn. Scavenger's Talent. 1 mana, black for a rare class enchantment. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control die, create a food token. This ability triggers only once each turn. To get to level 2, it costs 2 mana, 1 and a black. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, target player mills 2 cards. To get to level 3, spend 3 mana, 2 and a black. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice 3 other non-land permanents. If you do, return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Season of Loss, 5 mana, 3 and 2 black for a mythic rare sorcery. Choose up to 5 paws worth of modes. You may choose the same mode more than once. For 1 paw, each player sacrifices a creature. For 2 paws, draw a card for each creature you controlled that died this turn. For 3 paws, each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Sinister Monolith, 4 mana, 3 and a black for an uncommon artifact. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Tap, pay 2 life, sacrifice Sinister Monolith, draw 2 cards. Activate only as a sorcery. Stargaze, 2 black, X, uncommon sorcery. Look at twice X cards from the top of your library. Put X cards from among them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. You lose X life. Starlit Soothsayer, 3 mana, 2 and a black for a common creature, Bat Cleric. It is a 2/2 with flying. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained or lost life this turn, Surveil 1. Starscape Cleric, 2 mana, 1 and a black for an uncommon creature, Bat Cleric. It is a 2/1 with Offspring 3 mana, 2 and a black. It has flying. This creature can't block. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Thornplate Intimidator, 4 mana, 3 and a black for a common creature, Rat Rogue. It is a 4/3 with Offspring 3 mana. When this creature enters, target opponent loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. Thoughtstalker Warlock, 3 mana, 2 and a black for an uncommon creature, Lizard Warlock. It is a 2/2 with Menace. When Thoughtstalker Warlock enters, choose target opponent. If they lost life this turn, they reveal their hand. You choose a non-land card from it, and they discard that card. Otherwise, they discard a card. Valley Rotcaller, 2 mana, 1 and a black for a rare creature, Squirrel Warlock. It is a 1/3 with Menace. Whenever Valley Rotcaller attacks, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of other squirrels, bats, lizards, and rats you control. Wick, the World Mind, 4 mana, 3 and a black for a rare legendary creature, Rat Warlock. It is a 2/4. Whenever Wick or another rat you control enters, create a 1/1 black snail creature token if you don't control a snail. Otherwise, put a +1/+1 counter on a snail you control. For 3 mana, a blue, a black, and a red, and sacrificing a snail, Wick deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to each opponent, then draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power. Wick's Patrol, 6 mana, 4 and 2 black for an uncommon creature, Rat Warlock. It is a 5/3. When Wick's Patrol enters, mill 3 cards. When you do, target creature an opponent controls gets -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the greatest mana value among cards in your graveyard. Agate Assault, 3 mana, 2 and a red for a common sorcery. Choose one. Agate Assault deals 4 damage to target creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead, or exile target artifact. Alania's Pathmaker, 4 mana, 3 and a red for a common creature, Otter Wizard. It is a 4/2. When Alania's Pathmaker enters, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. Artist's Talent, 2 mana, 1 and a red for a rare class enchantment. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. To get to level 2, 3 mana, 2 and a red. Non-creature spells you cast cost 1 mana less to cast. To get to level 3, 3 mana, 2 and a red. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage +2 instead. Blacksmith's Talent, 1 mana, red for an uncommon class enchantment. When Blacksmith's Talent enters, create a colorless equipment artifact token named Sword with equipped creature gets +1/+1 and equip 2. To get to level 2, spend 3 mana, 2 and a red. At the beginning of combat on your turn, attach target equipment you control to up to 1 target creature you control. To get to level 3, spend 4 mana, 3 and a red. During your turn, equipped creatures you control have double strike and haste. Blooming Blast, 2 mana, 1 and a red for an uncommon instant. You can gift a treasure. Blooming Blast deals 2 damage to target creature. If the gift was promised, Blooming Blast also deals 3 damage to that creature's controller. Bramble Guard Captain. 4 mana, 3 and a red for an uncommon creature, Mouse Soldier. It is a 2/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is Bramble Guard Captain's power. Brazen Collector. 2 mana, 1 and a red for an uncommon creature, Raccoon Rogue. It is a 2/1 with First Strike. Whenever Brazen Collector attacks, add a red. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Byway Barterer. 3 mana, 2 and a red for a rare creature, Raccoon Rogue. It is a 3/3 with Menace. Whenever you expend 4, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw 2 cards. Conduct Electricity. 5 mana, 4 and a red for a common instant. Conduct Electricity deals 6 damage to target creature and 2 damage to up to 1 target creature token. Coruscation Mage. 2 mana, 1 and a red for an uncommon creature, Otter Wizard. It is a 2/2 with Offspring for 2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. Dragonhawk. Fate's Tempest. 5 mana, 3 and 2 red for a mythic rare, legendary creature, Bird Dragon. It is a 5/5 with flying. Whenever Dragonhawk enters or attacks, exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 4 or greater. You may play those cards until your next end step. At the beginning of your next end step, Dragonhawk deals 2 damage to each opponent for each of those cards that are still exiled. Emberheart Challenger. 2 mana, 1 and a red for a rare creature, Mouse Warrior. It is a 2/2 with haste and prowess. It has Valiant. Whenever Emberheart Challenger becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card. Festival of Embers. 5 mana, 4 and a red for a rare enchantment. During your turn, you may cast instant and sorcery spells from your graveyard by paying 1 life in addition to their other costs. If a card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. For 2 mana, 1 and a red, sacrifice Festival of Embers. Flame Cache Gecko. 2 mana, 1 and a red for an uncommon creature, Lizard Warlock. It is a 2/2. When Flame Cache Gecko enters, if an opponent lost life this turn, add a black and a red. For 2 mana, 1 and a red, you can discard a card and draw a card. Frilled Sparkshooter. 4 mana, 3 and a red for a common creature, Lizard Archer. It is a 3/3 with Menace and Reach. Frilled Sparkshooter enters with a +1/+1 counter on it if an opponent lost life this turn. Harnesser of Storms. 3 mana, 2 and a red for an uncommon creature, Otter Wizard. It is a 1/4. Whenever you cast a non-creature or otter spell, you may exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Heartfire Hero. 1 mana, red for an uncommon creature, Mouse Soldier. It is a 1/1 with Valiant. Whenever Heartfire Hero becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. When Heartfire Hero dies, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. Hearthborn Battler. 3 mana, 2 and a red for a rare creature, Lizard Warlock. It is a 2/3 with haste. Whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, Hearthborn Battler deals 2 damage to target opponent. Hired Claw. 1 mana, red for a rare creature, Lizard Mercenary. It is a 1/2. Whenever you attack with 1 or more lizards, Hired Claw deals 1 damage to target opponent. For 2 mana, 1 and a red, you put a +1/+1 counter on Hired Claw. Activate only if an opponent lost life this turn, and only once each turn. Hoarder's Overflow. 2 mana, 1 and a red for an uncommon enchantment. When Hoarder's Overflow enters, and whenever you expend 4, put a stash counter on it. For 2 mana, 1 and a red, and sacrificing Hoarder's Overflow, discard your hand, then draw cards equal to the number of stash counters on Hoarder's Overflow. Kindle Spark Duo. 3 mana, 2 and a red for a common creature, Lizard Otter. It is a 1/3. Tap, Kindle Spark Duo deals 1 damage to target opponent. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, untap Kindle Spark Duo. Manifold Mouse, 2 mana, 1 and a red for a rare creature Mouse Soldier. It is a 1/2 with Offspring, 2 mana. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target mouse you control gains your choice of Double Strike or Trample until end of turn. Might of the Meek, 1 mana, red for a common instant. Target creature gains Trample until end of turn. It also gets +1/+0 until end of turn if you control a mouse. Draw a card. Playful Shove, 2 mana, 1 and a red for an uncommon sorcery. Playful Shove deals 1 damage to any target. Draw a card. Quake Tusk Boar, 5 mana, 3 and 2 red for an uncommon creature, Elemental Boar. It is a 5/5 with Reach, Trample, and Haste. Rabid Gnaw, 2 mana, 1 and a red for an uncommon instant. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Then it deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Raccoon Rallier, 2 mana, 1 and a red for a common creature, Raccoon Bard. It is a 2/2. Tap, target creature you control gains haste until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Reptilian Recruiter, 5 mana, 3 and 2 red for an uncommon creature, Lizard Warrior. It is a 4/2 with Trample. When Reptilian Recruiter enters, choose target creature. If that creature's power is 2 or less, or if you control another lizard, gain control of that creature until end of turn. Untap it, and it gains haste until end of turn. Roughshod Duo, 3 mana, 2 and a red for a common creature, Mouse Raccoon. It is a 3/2 with Trample. Whenever you expend 4, target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains Trample until end of turn. Sazakap's Brew, 2 mana, 1 and a red for a common instant. You can gift a tapped fish. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card. Target player draws 2 cards. If the gift was promised, target creature you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Season of the Bold, 3 mana, 2 and a red for a mythic rare sorcery. Choose up to 5 paws worth of modes. You may choose the same mode more than once. For 1 paw, create a tapped treasure token. For 2 paws, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play them. For 3 paws, until the end of your next turn, whenever you cast a spell, Season of the Bold deals 2 damage to up to 1 target creature. Steam Path Charger, 2 mana, 1 and a red for a common creature, Lizard Warlock. It is a 2/1 with Offspring for 2 mana. When this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to target player. Storm Splitter, 4 mana, 3 and a red for a mythic rare creature, Otter Wizard. It is a 1/4 with Haste. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a token that's a copy of Storm Splitter. Exile that token at the beginning of the next end step. Sunspine Lynx, 4 mana, 2 and 2 red for a rare creature, Elemental Cat. It is a 5/4. Players can't gain life. Damage can't be prevented. When Sunspine Lynx enters, it deals damage to each player equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. Take Out the Trash, 2 mana, 1 and a red for a common instant. Take Out the Trash deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If you control a raccoon, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Teapot Slinger, 4 mana, 3 and a red for an uncommon creature, Raccoon Warrior. It is a 3/4 with Menace. Whenever you expend 4, Teapot Slinger deals 2 damage to each opponent. Valley Flamecaller, 3 mana, 2 and a red for a rare creature, Lizard Warlock. It is a 3/3. If a lizard, mouse, otter, or raccoon you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals that much damage +1 instead. Valley Rally, 3 mana, 2 and a red for an uncommon instant. You can gift a food. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. If the gift was promised, target creature you control gains first strike until end of turn. War Squeak, 1 mana, red for a common aura. Enchant creature. When War Squeak enters, target creature an opponent controls can't block this turn. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has haste. Whisker Quill Scribe, 2 mana, 1 and a red for a common creature, Mouse Citizen. It is a 2/2 with Valiant. Whenever Whisker Quill Scribe becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Wildfire Howl, 3 mana, 1 and 2 red for an uncommon sorcery. You can gift a card. Wildfire Howl deals 2 damage to each creature. If the gift was promised, instead Wildfire Howl deals 1 damage to any target and 2 damage to each creature. Baker's Bane Duo. 2 mana, 1 and a green for a common creature, Squirrel Raccoon. It is a 2/2. When Baker's Bane Duo enters, create a food token. Whenever you expend 4, Baker's Bane Duo gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Bark Knuckle Boxer. 2 mana, 1 and a green for an uncommon creature, Raccoon Berserker. It is a 3/2. Whenever you expend 4, Bark Knuckle Boxer gains indestructible until end of turn. Bramble Guard Veteran. 3 mana, 1 and 2 green for an uncommon creature, Raccoon Warrior. It is a 3/4. Whenever you expend 4, raccoons you control get +1/+1 and gain vigilance until end of turn. Bushy Bodyguard. 2 mana, 1 and a green for an uncommon creature, Squirrel Warrior. It is a 2/1 with Offspring for 2 mana. When this creature enters, you may forage. If you do, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Cash Grab. 2 mana, 1 and a green for a common instant. Mill 4 cards. You may put a permanent card from among the cards milled this way into your hand. If you control a squirrel or return a squirrel card to your hand this way, create a food token. Clifftop Lookout. 3 mana, 2 and a green for an uncommon creature, Frog Scout. It is a 1/2 with reach. When Clifftop Lookout enters, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a land card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Curious Forager. 3 mana, 2 and a green for an uncommon creature, Squirrel Druid. It is a 3/2. When Curious Forager enters, you may forage. When you do, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Druid of the Spade. 3 mana, 2 and a green for a common creature, Rabbit Druid. It is a 2/3. As long as you control a token, Druid of the Spade gets +2/+0 and has trample. Fecund Greenshell. 5 mana, 3 and 2 green for a rare creature, Elemental Turtle. It is a 4/6 with reach. As long as you control 10 or more lands, creatures you control get +2/+2. Whenever Fecund Greenshell or another creature you control with toughness greater than its power enters, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, put it into your hand. For the Common Good. 1 green and 2 X for a rare sorcery. Create X tokens that are copies of target token you control. Then tokens you control gain indestructible until your next turn. You gain 1 life for each token you control. Galewind Moose. 6 mana, 4 and 2 green for an uncommon creature, Elemental Elk. It is a 6/6 with Flash, Vigilance, Reach, and Trample. Hazard Root Herbalist. 3 mana, 2 and a green for an uncommon creature, Rabbit Druid. It is a 1/4. Whenever you attack, target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. If that creature is a token, it also gains Death Touch until end of turn. Heaped Harvest. 3 mana, 2 and a green for a common artifact food. When Heaped Harvest enters, and when you sacrifice it, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. 2, tap, sacrifice Heaped Harvest, you gain 3 life. High Stride. 1 mana, green, for a common instant. Target creature gets +1/+3 and gains reach until end of turn. Untap it. Hivespine Wolverine. 5 mana, 3 and 2 green for an uncommon creature, Elemental Wolverine. It is a 5/4. When Hivespine Wolverine enters, choose 1. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Hivespine Wolverine fights target creature token. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Honored Dray Leader. 3 mana, 2 and a green for an uncommon creature, Squirrel Warrior. It is a 1/1 with Trample. When Honored Dray Leader enters, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each other squirrel and or food you control. Whenever another squirrel or food you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on Honored Dray Leader. Hunter's Talent. 2 mana, 1 and a green for an uncommon class enchantment. When Hunter's Talent enters, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. For level 2, 1 and a green, whenever you attack, target attacking creature you gets +1/+0 and gains trample until end of turn. For level 3, 4 mana, 3 and a green, at the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. Innkeeper's Talent. 2 mana, 1 and a green for a rare class enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. At level 2, for 1 green, permanents you control with counters on them have Ward 1. At level 3, 4 mana, 3 and a green, if you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many of each of those kinds of counters on that permanent or player instead. Keen-Eyed Curator. 2 mana, 2 green for a rare creature Raccoon Scout. It is a 3/3. As long as there are 4 or more card types among cards exiled with Keen-Eyed Curator, it gets +4/+4 and has trample. For 1 mana, exile target card from a graveyard. Longstalk Brawl. 1 mana, green for a common sorcery. You can gift a tapped fish. Choose target creature you control and target creature you don't control. Put a +1/+1 counter on the creature you control if the gift was promised. Then those creatures fight each other. Lumra, Bellow of the Woods. 6 mana, 4 and 2 green for a mythic rare legendary creature Elemental Bear with Vigilance and Reach. Lumra, Bellow of the Woods' power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. When Lumra enters, mill 4 cards, then return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Mistbreath Elder. 1 mana, green for a rare creature Frog Warrior, 2/2. At the beginning of your upkeep, return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on Mistbreath Elder. Otherwise, you may return Mistbreath Elder to its owner's hand. Overprotect. 2 mana, 1 and a green for an uncommon instant. Target creature you control gets +3/+3 and gains trample, hexproof, and indestructible until end of turn. Paw Patch Formation. 2 mana, 1 and a green for an uncommon instant. Choose 1. Destroy target creature with flying, destroy target enchantment, draw a card, create a food token. Paw Patch Recruit. 1 mana, green for a rare creature Rabbit Warrior. It is a 2/1 with Offspring for 2 mana. It has trample. Whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control other than that creature. Peerless Recycling. 2 mana, 1 and a green for an uncommon instant. You can gift a card. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If the gift was promised, instead return 2 target permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. Polywallop. 4 mana, 3 and a green for a common instant. This spell costs 1 mana less to cast for each frog you control. Target creature you control deals damage equal to twice its power to target creature you don't control. Rust Shield Rampager. 4 mana, 3 and a green for a common creature Raccoon Warrior. It is a 4/4 with Offspring for 2 mana. This creature can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Scrap Shooter. 3 mana, 1 and 2 green for a rare creature Raccoon Archer. It is a 4/4 with Reach. You can gift a card. When Scrap Shooter enters, if the gift was promised, destroy target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. Season of Gathering. 6 mana, 4 and 2 green for a mythic rare sorcery. Choose up to 5 paws worth of modes. You may choose the same mode more than once. For 1 paw, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. It gains Vigilance and Trample until end of turn. 2 paws, choose Artifact or Enchantment. Destroy all permanents of the chosen type. 3 paws, draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. Sticky Tongue Sentinel. 3 mana, 2 and a green for a common creature Frog Warrior. It is a 3/3 with Reach. When Sticky Tongue Sentinel enters, return up to 1 other target permanent you control to its owner's hand. Stalking the Pantry. 1 mana, green for an uncommon enchantment. Whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, put a supply counter on Stalking the Pantry. For 2 mana and removing a supply counter from Stalking the Pantry, draw a card. Sunshower Druid. 1 mana, green for a common creature Frog Druid. It is a 0/2. When Sunshower Druid enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and you gain 1 life. Tender Wild Guide. 2 mana, 1 and a green for a rare creature Possum Druid. It is a 2/2 with Offspring for 2 mana. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. Tap, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Thorn Vault Forager. 2 mana, 1 and a green for a rare creature, Squirrel Ranger. It is a 2/2. Tap, add a green. Tap, forage, add 2 mana in any combination of colors. 4 mana, 3 and a green, tap, search your library for a squirrel card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. 3 Tree Root Weaver. 2 mana, 1 and a green for a common creature, Mole Druid. It is a 1/3. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. 3 Tree Scribe. 2 mana, 1 and a green for an uncommon creature, Frog Druid. It is a 2/3. Whenever 3 Tree Scribe or another creature you control leaves the battlefield without dying, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Tree Guard Duo. 4 mana, 3 and a green for a common creature, Frog Rabbit. It is a 3/4. When Tree Guard Duo enters, until end of turn, target creature you control gains Vigilance and gets +X/+X, where X is the number of creatures you control. Treetop Sentries. 4 mana, 3 and a green for a common creature, Squirrel Archer. It is a 2/4 with reach. When Treetop Sentries enters, you may forage. If you do, draw a card. Valley Might Caller. 1 mana, green for a rare creature, Frog Warrior. It is a 1/1 with trample. Whenever another frog, rabbit, raccoon, or squirrel you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on Valley Might Caller. Wear Down. 2 mana, 1 and a green for an uncommon sorcery. You can gift a card. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. If the gift was promised, instead destroy 2 target artifacts and/or enchantments. Alanya, Divergent Storm. 5 mana, 3, a blue and a red for a rare legendary creature, Otter Wizard. It is a 3/5. Whenever you cast a spell, if it's the first instant spell, the first sorcery spell, or the first otter spell other than Alanya you've cast this turn, you may have target opponent draw a card. If you do, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Balin, the Haymaker. 3 mana, a red, a green, and a white for a rare legendary creature, Rabbit Warrior. It is a 4/3. Tap 2 untapped tokens you control, add 1 mana of any color. Tap 3 untapped tokens you control, draw a card. Tap 4 untapped tokens you control, put 3 +1/+1 counters on Balin the Haymaker. It gains trample until end of turn. Burrow Guard Mentor. 2 mana, a green and a white for an uncommon creature, Rabbit Soldier. It has trample. Burrow Guard Mentor's power and toughness are each equal to the number of creatures you control. Camellia, the Seed Miser. 3 mana, 1, a black and a green for a rare legendary creature, Squirrel Warlock. It is a 3/3 with menace. Other squirrels you control have menace. Whenever you sacrifice 1 or more foods, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. For 2 mana and foraging, put a +1/+1 counter on each other squirrel you control. Cindering Cutthroat. 3 mana, 2 and a hybrid black-red for a common creature, Lizard Assassin. It is a 3/2. Cindering Cutthroat enters with a +1/+1 counter on it if an opponent lost life this turn. For 2 mana, 1 and a hybrid black-red, Cindering Cutthroat gains menace until end of turn. Clement, the Worrywart. 3 mana, 1, a green and a blue for a rare legendary creature, Frog Druid. It is a 3/3 with vigilance. Whenever Clement the Worrywart or another creature you control enters, return up to 1 target creature you control with lesser mana value to its owner's hand. Frogs you control have tap, add green or blue. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell. Corpseberry Cultivator. 3 mana, 1 and 2 hybrid black or green for a common creature, Squirrel Warlock. It is a 2/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may forage. Whenever you forage, put a +1/+1 counter on Corpseberry Cultivator. Dream Dew Entrancer. 4 mana, 2, a green and a blue for a rare creature, Frog Wizard. It is a 3/4. It has reach. Whenever Dream Dew Entrancer enters, tap up to 1 target creature and put 3 stun counters on it. If you control that creature, draw 2 cards. Phineas, Ace Archer. 2 mana, a green and a white for a rare legendary creature, Rabbit Archer. It is a 2/2 with vigilance and reach. Whenever Phineas, Ace Archer attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control that's a token or a rabbit. Then, if creatures you control have total power 10 or greater, draw a card. Fireglass Mentor. 2 mana, a black and a red, for an uncommon creature, Lizard Warlock. It is a 2/1. At the beginning of your second main phase, if an opponent lost life this turn, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Choose one of them. Until end of turn, you may play that card. Gev, Scaled Scorch. 2 mana, a black and a red, for a rare legendary creature, Lizard Mercenary. It is a 3/2 with Ward, pay 2 life. Other creatures you control enter with an additional +1/+1 counter on them for each opponent who lost life this turn. Whenever you cast a lizard spell, Gev, Scaled Scorch deals 1 damage to target opponent. Glarb, Calamity's Augur. 3 mana, a black, a green, and a blue, for a mythic rare, legendary creature, Frog Wizard Noble. It is a 2/4 with Death Touch. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play lands and cast spells with mana value 4 or greater from the top of your library. Tap, Surveil 2. Head of the Homestead. 5 mana, 3 and 2 hybrid green or white, for a common creature, Rabbit Citizen. It is a 3/2. When Head of the Homestead enters, create 2 1/1 white rabbit creature tokens. Helga, Skittish Seer. 3 mana, a green, a white, and a blue, for a mythic rare, legendary creature, Frog Druid. It is a 1/3. Whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 4 or greater, you draw a card, gain 1 life, and put a +1/+1 counter on Helga, Skittish Seer. Tap, add X mana of any one color, where X is Helga, Skittish Seer's power. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells with mana value 4 or greater, or creature spells with X in their mana costs. Hugs, Grisly Guardian. X, 2 red and 2 green, for a mythic rare legendary creature, Badger Warrior. It is a 5/5 with Trample. When Hugs, Grisly Guardian enters, exile the top X cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. The infamous Cruel Claw. 3 mana, 1 a black and a red, for a mythic rare legendary creature, Weasel Mercenary. It is a 3/3 with Menace. Whenever the infamous Cruel Claw deals combat damage to a player, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast that card by discarding a card rather than paying its mana cost. Junkblade Bruiser. 5 mana, 3 and 2 hybrid red-green, for a common creature, Raccoon Berserker. It is a 4/5 with Trample. Whenever you expend 4, Junkblade Bruiser gets +2/+1 until end of turn. Castrol, the Wind-Crested. 5 mana, 3 a white and a blue, for a rare legendary creature, Bird Scout. It is a 4/5 with Flying. Whenever 1 or more birds you control deal combat damage to a player, choose one. You may put a bird creature card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Put a +1/+1 counter on each bird you control. Draw a card. Lily Splash Mentor. 4 mana, 2 a green and a blue, for an uncommon creature, Frog Druid. It is a 4/4 with Reach. 3 mana, 1 a green and a blue. Exile another target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Activate only as a sorcery. Lunar Convocation. 2 mana, a white and a black, for a rare enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, each opponent loses 1 life. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained and lost life this turn, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with Flying. 2 mana, 1 and a black, and pay 2 life. Draw a card. Mabel, Heir to Cragflame. 3 mana, 1 a red and a white, for a rare legendary creature, Mouse Soldier. It is a 3/3. Other mice you control get +1/+1. When Mabel, Heir to Cragflame enters, create Cragflame, a legendary colorless equipment artifact token with equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has Vigilance, Trample, and Haste, and equip 2. Mind Drill Assailant. 4 mana, 2 and 2 hybrid blue-black, for a common creature, Rat Warlock. It is a 2/5 with Threshold. As long as 7 or more cards are in your graveyard, Mind Drill Assailant gets +3/+0. For 3 mana, 2 and a hybrid blue-black, Surveil 1. Moonrise Cleric. 3 mana, 1 and 2 hybrid white-black, for a common creature, Bat Cleric. It is a 2/3 with Flying. Whenever Moonrise Cleric attacks, you gain 1 life. Muera, Trash Tactician. 3 mana, 1, a red and a green, for a rare legendary creature, Raccoon Warrior. It is a 2/4. At the beginning of your first main phase, add red or green for each raccoon you control. Whenever you expend 4, you gain 3 life. Whenever you expend 8, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. Plume Creed Mentor. 3 mana, 1, a white and a blue, for an uncommon creature, Bird Scout. It is a 2/3 with flying. Whenever Plume Creed Mentor or another creature you control with flying enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control without flying. Pond Prophet. 2 mana, 2 hybrid, green-blue, for a common creature, Frog Advisor. It is a 1/1. When Pond Prophet enters, draw a card. Ral, Crackling Wit. 4 mana, 2, a blue and a red, for a mythic rare legendary planeswalker. It has 4 loyalty. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a loyalty counter on Ral, Crackling Wit. +1, create a 1/1 blue and red otter creature token with prowess. -3, draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards. -10, draw 3 cards. You get an emblem with instant and sorcery spells you cast have Storm. Seed Glaive Mentor. 3 mana, 1, a red and a white, for an uncommon creature, Mouse Soldier. It is a 3/2 with Vigilance and Haste. It has Valiant. Whenever Seed Glaive Mentor becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Seed Pod Squire. 4 mana, 3, and a hybrid white-blue, for a common creature, Bird Scout. It is a 3/3 with flying. Whenever Seed Pod Squire attacks, target creature you control without flying gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Starseer Mentor. 5 mana, 3, a white and a black, for an uncommon creature, Bat Warlock. It is a 3/5 with flying and vigilance. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained or lost life this turn, target opponent loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. Stormcatch Mentor. 2 mana, a blue and a red, for an uncommon creature, Otter Wizard. It is a 1/1 with haste and prowess. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 mana less to cast. Tempest Angler. 3 mana, 1, and 2 hybrid blue-red, for a common creature, Otter Wizard. It is a 2/2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Tempest Angler. Tidecaller Mentor. 3 mana, 1, a blue and a black, for an uncommon creature, Rat Wizard. It is a 3/3 with Menace. Threshold. When Tidecaller Mentor enters, if 7 or more cards are in your graveyard, return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Veteran Guard Mouse. 4 mana, 3, and a hybrid red-white, for a common creature, Mouse Soldier. It is a 3/4 with Valiant. Whenever Veteran Guard Mouse becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, it gets +1/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn, scry 1. Vine Reap Mentor. 2 mana, a black and a green, for an uncommon creature, Squirrel Druid. It is a 3/2. When Vine Reap Mentor enters or dies, create a food token. Vren the Relentless. 4 mana, 2, a blue and a black, for a rare legendary creature, Rat Rogue. It is a 3/4 with Ward 2. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. At the beginning of each end step, create X 1/1 black rat creature tokens with this creature gets +1/+1 for each other rat you control, where X is the number of creatures your opponents controlled that were exiled this turn. Wandertail Mentor. 2 mana, a red and a green, for an uncommon creature, Raccoon Bard. It is a 2/2. Whenever you expend 4, put a +1/+1 counter on Wandertail Mentor. Tap, add red or green. Igra, Eater of All. 5 mana, 3, a black and a green, for a mythic rare legendary creature, Elemental Cat. It is a 6/6 with Ward, Sacrifice a Food. Other creatures are food artifacts in addition to their other types, and have 2, tap, sacrifice this permanent, you gain 3 life. Whenever a food is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Igra, Eater of All. Zoraline, Cosmos Caller. 3 mana, 1, a white and a black, for a rare legendary creature, Bat Cleric. It is a 3/3 with flying and vigilance. Whenever a bat you control attacks, you gain 1 life. Whenever Zoraline enters or attacks, you may pay 2 mana, white and a black, and 2 life. When you do, return target non-land permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Bark Form Harvester. 3 mana for a common artifact creature Shapeshifter. It is a 2/3 with Changeling and Reach. 2 mana, put target card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. Bumbleflower's Sharepot. 2 mana for a common artifact. When Bumbleflower's Sharepot enters, create a food token. 5, tap, sacrifice Bumbleflower's Sharepot, destroy target non-land permanent, activate only as a sorcery. Fountain Port Bell. 1 mana for a common artifact. When Fountain Port Bell enters, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, then shuffle and put that card on top. 1, sacrifice Fountain Port Bell, draw a card. Heirloom Epic. 1 mana for an uncommon artifact. 4, tap, draw a card. For each mana in this ability's activation cost, you may tap an untapped creature you control rather than pay that mana. Activate only as a sorcery. Patchwork Banner. 3 mana for an uncommon artifact. As Patchwork Banner enters, choose a creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. Shortbow. 2 mana for an uncommon artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has Vigilance and Reach. Equip 1. Starforged Sword. 4 mana for an uncommon artifact equipment. Gift a tapped fish. When Starforged Sword enters, if the gift was promised, attach Starforged Sword to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +3/+3 and loses flying. Equip 3. Tangle Tumbler. 3 mana for an uncommon artifact vehicle. It is a 6/6 with Vigilance. 3, tap, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Tap 2 untapped tokens you control. Tangle Tumbler becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. 3 Tree Mascot. 2 mana for a common artifact creature Shapeshifter. It is a 2/1 with Changeling. 1, add 1 mana of any color. Activate only once each turn. Fabled Passage, a rare land. Tap, sacrifice Fabled Passage, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Then, if you control 4 or more lands, untap that land. Fountain Port, a rare land. Tap, add a colorless. 2, tap, sacrifice a token, draw a card. 3, tap, pay 1 life, create a 1/1 blue fish creature token. 4, tap, create a treasure token. Hidden Grotto, a common land. When Hidden Grotto enters, surveil 1. Tap, add a colorless. 1, tap, add a mana of any color. Lilypad Village, an uncommon land. Tap, add a colorless. Tap, add a blue. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell. Blue, tap, surveil 2. Activate only if a bird, frog, otter, or rat enter the battlefield under your control this turn. Lupin Flower Village, an uncommon land. Tap, add a colorless. Tap, add a white. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell. 2 mana, 1 and a white. Tap, sacrifice Lupin Flower Village. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a bat, bird, mouse, or rabbit card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Mudflat Village, an uncommon land. Tap, add a colorless. Tap, add black. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell. 2 mana, 1 and a black. Tap, sacrifice Mudflat Village. Return target bat, lizard, rat, or squirrel card from your graveyard to your hand. Oak Hollow Village, an uncommon land. Tap, add a colorless. Tap, add a green. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell. Green, tap, put a +1/+1 counter on each frog, rabbit, raccoon, or squirrel you control that entered the battlefield this turn. Rockface Village, an uncommon land. Tap, add a colorless. Tap, add a red. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell. Red, tap, target lizard, mouse, otter, or raccoon you control gets +1/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. 3 Tree City, a rare legendary land. As 3 Tree City enters, choose a creature type. Tap, add a colorless. 2, tap, choose a color. Add an amount of mana of that color equal to the number of creatures you control of the chosen type. Uncharted Haven, a common land. Uncharted Haven enters tapped. As it enters, choose a color. Tap, add 1 mana of the chosen color. Thanks for listening to the Bloomburrow Set Narration. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the Jankyard, where we post some really stupid deck techs for your next Friday Night Magic.